Welcome to Insights Over Espresso, where we explore how AI is reshaping industries and accelerating innovation. And I'm your host, Joe Marone. And today I'm joined by Dr. Cindy Azevedo, founder of Holly Grove Health. Welcome, Cindy. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you, Joe. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
All right. Well, Cindy, you've been running Holly Grove Health since 2016, I think, specializing in women's hormonal, thyroid, detox, fertility, mitochondrial health. Can you tell us a bit about your journey and what led you to focus on these specific areas within functional medicine?
So I've been running my own private practice since 2016. I'm a naturopathic doctor and an acupuncturist by training. And what took me down this journey, which is not a journey that most people tend to find themselves in, was my own personal health and my own personal experience and lived experience of going through trying to figure out what's going on, hormonally. I like with the menstrual cycles, they were irregular. I was getting acne. There was hair loss. I had a ton of GI issues, lots of allergies, like just allergic to a variety of different things. I was always that sick kid, and I just couldn't figure out what was going on. And then obviously my parents, I have very loving parents and I love them dearly. They didn't know better, right? They're trying to do the best they can. And they took me to, the medical system, the conventional medical system. And so even then, like, things were kind of limited. So I just ended up kind of taking things into my own hands and just doing my own search towards stuff and reaching out to learn more about, okay, what's going on? Why am I not better? Obviously the doctors are not giving me answers. There's limitations, like they're not really helping me. So a little bit of curiosity and a little determination.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I find a lot of people that are in your shoes that kind of go down that natural path tend to do it, whether it's through eating, writing cookbooks, or doing what you've done, just becoming a doctor in this type of practice. And it's generally to fix themselves to start with. It's kind of always, hey, I've got a problem, so there's no better patient than me, and let me go kind of figure it out. And then they say, hey, now that I figured it out, let me help others.
Yeah, and that was part of my process was like me trying to figure it out myself, like what's going on here and getting, whatever answers I could. But in that process of fixing myself, there's also a process of like personal growth, self-development and stuff like that. But ultimately what I came to be is the doctor or the person that I was looking for when I was going through my struggles. And that's actually what took me down this path. I mean, naturopathic medicine, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't grow up with knowing what it was. I just happened to stumble upon it. And did I go? I did see someone who was a naturopathic doctor right before I went to naturopathic school. And that was my first experience. What I appreciated was the holistic view of health. Originally, I was thinking of going down nutrition, but then I found naturopathic medicine and it encompassed it so much more.
That's good. So as a solo practitioner who, transitioned from brick and mortar to 100% online practice in 22. You mentioned when we spoke earlier that the shift required a different approach to marketing and niching down. What was the biggest learning curve during that transition, and how has it shaped your current focus?
Yeah. So during that time, I was going through a lot, as far as what was going on in society, in the world, and then how that impacted my business. And then I just decided to kind of go cold turkey. So to say, just made the leap and I'm just going to go 100% online. And I didn't know exactly what I was doing. Did I understand the online landscape? Not entirely, but I just figured I'm just going to do this and I'll figure it out. And then I'm going to learn as I go. So it was essentially like starting all over again. It's like a brand new business. You're starting over from ground zero, but a little bit more experience behind you.
Yeah.
Essentially, it was for marketing and everything. I had to change because I've been DIYing the marketing with social media And I was more of a generalist, but in the online space, that doesn't necessarily work. For brick and mortar, you can put your sign out. That's different. The online space, you have to niche. That's one thing I've learned is you have to niche down. You have to speak to one person who your ideal client avatar is, and you may have more than one. There might be different versions of that ideal client avatar, but I think once you figure that out, then you know who to market to. Then you know how to, as far as the copy, your website, it just determines everything going forward. And then how you want to structure your services, your offers, and the communication going forward. And that was one thing I've learned. And then also tech comes into the picture. So there's more tech running an online practice than there is a brick and mortar. So you know, you don't have to be a tech expert, but you have to because you are online, tech is absolutely going to be involved.
Hmm.
So that has to come in more so. Yeah, with niching, I figured I had to think back, was like, why did I go into this for the first place? And that was my own personal journey. And that's where, I like women's health. I like supporting women with growing their families. And I like supporting more of the traditional family values. And that way, you're supporting the family, you're supporting future generations too. So I feel like focusing on that, I'm going to have a bigger impact, not just now, but also for the future.
Yeah, yeah. So when you zoom out and look at the wider landscape of women's health and functional medicine, what major shifts or trends do you think are shaping the future of the industry, especially with the rise of femtech innovations and the demand for precision nutrition?
Yeah, you know what? There's so much available now. I would say even within the last year, there's so much more available as far as tech, and particularly with the AI kind of coming in and taking more of a presence, I would say. But you know, still I still feel like even though there's a lot of people that are nervous about AI, it's how it's used. Um, AI is just going to spit out what it's being fed. So whatever the input is, that's what the output's going to be. So if you can find something that works, or if you can create something that is specifically to your language, your way of thinking, your style, your experience, and if you can create that and where it just supports you further and just taking out some of the like day-to-day tasks that become a burden, take up time, and that way you can continue to just get better at what you do and you're not bogged down with tasks that are just time consuming and are not really getting you, or advancing you into what you really need to be doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've got a good understanding of how AI is more applicable to our day-to-day lives and businesses, really. I mean, it's not like about taking over the world. It's about, hey, doing these mundane tasks that require they're just repetitive or take a lot of time, and AI can do it much faster and easier. So,
Yeah, yeah, and that way you can just preserve your energy and just reserve your energy for more of your zone of genius and whatever that may be. Because sometimes those mundane tasks, they just drain out your energy, they drain out your creativity and all of that. And that's the other thing is to not let AI make all the decisions for you. There still has to be a level of decision making that's still preserved.
absolutely, absolutely. We're not taking the humans out of the world. So, what do most people outside of functional medicine either misunderstand or underestimate about, the personalized care you provide, particularly for conditions like PCOS or how do you pronounce it? Endometriosis?
Endometriosis.
Okay, there you go. Say that
Yeah.
times fast.
Yeah, so there's so much around PCOS that they don't even know the etiology of it, what causes it. The way that I think of it is there's so many different multifactorial inputs or causes. I don't think it's one thing, and I think that's one thing people have to realize is it's not necessarily like there's no silver bullet. There's no one magic pill and it's going to fix everything and you can just go on with your life and enjoy life and not take responsibility for your health. We weren't designed that way. And neither does the body really operate in that way. So the idea that you're just going to throw like a birth control pill or whatever it is or a patch and you're just going to stop somebody's period and think that's going to regulate their cycle. No, it doesn't. It doesn't get to the root cause or the root issues, or it doesn't address underlying issues. And that's what makes it complex, is figuring out what those underlying contributors are.
Yeah.
And there's many. And so with working with women, and I love doing functional lab testing, I just get so much more information from it. We just go further with it in this process. And I love being in partnership with women and also with men and their families. Um, because then we're working together there's obviously a goal and we're working towards that goal. And I'm just guiding them through the process and digging in and doing more investigative work with them as to, okay, this is what's going on in your body. These are what these markers are telling us. Maybe we should look into this. We'll look at environmental toxin testing. So that's a big thing that I do. I always start off with blood work, more comprehensive blood work. And I want to see like what is going on with the endocrine system in general. We may incorporate some at-home testing or tracking, such as like if needed, we'll use a continuous glucose monitor for a short time, just to get an idea of what's going on metabolically with the blood sugar. And that way, like it's just bringing more information into the picture. Or we'll use like a hormone tracking device. So we'll track on seeing like what's happening throughout their cycle. And, so when the symptoms come on, I can see, all right, this is happening during that time in your cycle. That kind of makes sense. And then I just add in more functional lab testing and we just get more information. And you know what? And during this process, you're becoming so much more aware of your body, which I think is something that's lacking, is the awareness of their body and what's happening. And I think people are so like disconnected to their body. They think, oh, I'll just take this medicine or take this pill. I'm like, no, your body is communicating. It's trying to tell you something. It's giving you signs and symptoms, and it's just waiting for you, for you to say, okay, I gotta look into this and let's dig a little deeper.
I've heard that like for women that have PCOS, the different roles or jobs they have, like for instance, a flight attendant can be affected even further because of the constant altitude and flying.
Yeah, absolutely. With the jet fuel exhaust from that, you're outside of your element. So as far as eating, you're probably eating on the go. You don't have that regular schedule, so you're thrown off. The change of time zones and just how that throws off your diurnal rhythm. And because we're supposed to be connected to the light. We're more active during the daytime. Then at night, we need that complete darkness to get that rest, recovery, the release of even the recovery hormones. The brain cleanses and detoxes and kind of flushes things out during our sleeping hours. And if that is not of good quality and that's all thrown off, it can be difficult to try and regulate and balance things. But we always do the best we can, no matter the situation.
Okay. So if we were having this conversation 5 years from now, what do you think would look completely different in women's wellness and what might stay exactly the same?
So 5 years from now, at the rate that everything is going, whereas before, if you said 5 years from now, I was like, all right, things are kind of going at a slow pace. But I think at this rate, I think more and more people are going to be opting out of the health insurance model and realizing that it's not working. And I'm a proponent of going right for direct care. So I think there's going to be a lot more investment and out of pocket that people are going to be investing into their healthcare directly.
Okay.
And so that way they'll have better relationships with their providers, their doctors, practitioners, and who they trust. So I think the relationship between the provider and the patient or client is going to be much better. And then I also think that because of tech and a lot of the home devices that are coming into the picture, I think people are going to be coming into the provider's office, which so much more they're like educated. They're coming in with more information than, let's just say 20 years from now. 20 years ago, I should say. So
Yeah.
I feel like more and more people, they're coming to their provider's office they're getting information already, or they're starting to track things. They're realizing their body's out of balance. Like they want that direct help and they're looking to get it not necessarily faster, but like more with precision. That's more individualized, more personalized, rather than the one pill, for every ill or something that's been passed out to the masses, but it's not necessarily nuanced to the individual.
Okay. So I probably should have started with this, but let's rewind a little bit. Tell us more about Holly Grove Health. What do you do overall? Who do you do it for? Especially given your focus on women frustrated with, as you said, conventional healthcare.
Yeah, yeah. So Holly Grove Health obviously is something that I started, right? And it was, and I mean, I want to say it was actually born before I even started the business because of the process I went to arrive at even opening a business, right? So I set this up for the gal that's frustrated, obviously, trying to figure things out. She's been wasting time in various different doctors' office, seeing one specialist after another, not getting answers. And it's just, by the time you're doing all that, years go by and you're still not one step closer to, what you're trying to achieve, your health goals, getting answers or anything like that.
Yeah.
And this is where when you do get that direct care, and we're just going to dive right in. So anybody who works with me, we're diving right into lab testing. Like we're just going to go right in and start working on things, so like we're doing the investigative work. We're doing that deeper dive for sure. And then that is like, that's what's going to help give you some answers and give you actionable advice. So that way you're not in the passive role. You're more in the driver's seat in regards to your own health care.
Okay. Okay. So when we spoke earlier, you also mentioned using AI tools like Claude for marketing and building client avatars. Can you share a specific example of, how AI has helped you in attracting your ideal clientele or streamlining your marketing efforts?
Yeah, one thing is marketing. I'm a practitioner. I'm a clinician. I didn't go to school for marketing. And we're like, generally clinicians, practitioners, we're not the best marketers. We're not the most versed or even finances and business. Like we're not always the best at that, right? But I will say with starting to incorporate AI and figuring out as far as how to like speak and market and giving you these ideas. Cause even I get stumped. I was like, oh, I have to send out an email. How do I put this together? Like, how do I language this in a way that is going to get my point across, but with my voice, with my branding, my thought process, and just package it so that, obviously there's a call to action or there's some education involved or anything like that, but still maintain. It's like, all right, I like rather than spending hours or days or, you just kind of get stumped on how to put something together. I AI has made it so much easier, and especially with social media marketing. I mean, even with editing, I'm not the best at social media. I will absolutely admit that, but getting some help with that just makes it so much easier because that feels so heavy. As a practitioner, you've got so many hats that you're wearing, especially as a solopreneur. And that one kind of feels heavy. I'm like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. And having AI take some of that burden off my shoulders has been a huge help.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you've got some of the lingo down, your CTA, call to action, right?
Yeah. Even the lead magnet, I was like, all right,
Most people,
website. It's like,
most
how do I
people don't.
do this?
Yeah.
And creating the lead magnet, like just thinking of ideas and it can spark a little creativity. You're like, oh, I didn't think of that. And then it kind of like gets the ball rolling with thought processes and, the creative processes.
So what would you say makes Holly Grove Health different from other wellness practices, particularly in its approach to personalized support? And that you mentioned a lot of times in our conversation here, the functional lab testing. And how do you see AI further enhancing this differentiation?
Yeah. You know what? So I would say my focus is definitely more on personalized support and obviously the testing, but the focus is still the individual that I'm working with. in supporting them through the whatever their needs are, and even getting them to start thinking a little bit more independently. Just other things in their life that are involved that may be creating more of a stress that they didn't think about is like, okay, how can we alleviate some of that stress? And that's where, adding in a little bit of financial literacy or diverting them more to, okay, how much are you spending on health insurance? What are you really getting out of that? Like, what if there are other options that you can take the funds that your hard-earned money, take those funds and invest it in other ways that are going to benefit you directly, whether it be a health share, or like you starting your own whole life policy or, starting that for your family. Things that are going to take your hard-earned effort and give you more of a guarantee. So and it's not separating the whole health and wealth concept. So I want to bridge that together.
Okay. Okay. So what would you say is next for Holly Grove Health?
It's a good question. I've got so many ideas and big plans.
Let's say what's next in the next 12 months and then what's next in the next 24.
Yeah, I will share there's been a new service that I've added into the practice that I'm going to start marketing is actually custom peptides. So that's it, and that's outside of the insurance model of care. It's all out of pocket, but the possibilities of what it's able to do and help people with is actually much, much greater than what a lot of things are being offered now. And these are different than the off-the-shelf peptides. These are custom, they're very specific and very personalized. So it's an N of one situation. Mm,
Yeah,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, no. I was going to say, so if anything, it's going more into services that are so much more personalized, I would say.
So for those of us like myself that don't know what a peptide is or what, can you help expand on that a little so the listeners kind of get a better understanding of, what is a peptide and then what is it treating or helping?
Yeah, so peptides are really, really small molecules. They're basically a combination of different amino acids.
Okay.
Then you get and then from there, like it's smaller than a protein because different peptides come together and create a larger molecule called protein.
Okay.
So it's much smaller than that. But what they're addressing is signals. They're signaling molecules, but addressing things on a cellular level. And it's getting this. So there's testing that's involved. It's a blood test and a urine test. And then you look at what the aberrant pathways are that's happening within the cell. And then you can create these custom peptides or combinations of amino acids that's very specific to your body and providing it that support to hit specific targets.
Hmm.
And yes, and these are these are N of one. So they're research based. So they're very specific to the individual. It's not like, oh, I'm done with this. Here, you're going to pass it on to like someone in your family. You can't do that. It's very specific to your body that it's not like it wasn't designed for anybody
Right.
else.
Right. Well, like you said, it's custom.
It's custom. Yes.
So other than the, services like the custom peptides, where do you see the practice evolving over the next several years, taking into account, the continued integration of AI and more automation?
Yeah. So if we're gonna go like out to like the next few years, one of the things that I do see myself is working on the concept of health and wealth and just how they're inseparable and bridging them. So holistic health and holistic finance, because a lot of people are stressed out. And when I do my intake and I ask like, what are their biggest stresses? Finance tends to be always almost selected. So it's affecting a lot of people. And so if I can teach people or show them ways to where that becomes less of a stressor for them, then the effect that that will have on their health is also going to be more profound as well. And just kind of teaching them and supporting them in ways to where they can have a little bit more control of their life, and they don't have to invest in things like there's many different ways to make investments, but you don't have to like the stock market and like get your nervous system all dysregulated where it's going up and down. There's things that are a little bit more secure, more of a guarantee. You're not like going high risk. you can still take low risks and get high gains.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So, in that, you just mentioned finances and everything. So it kind of leads into the next question, which is really around, Holly Grove Health operates in a direct pay model, right?
it does.
And,
Yes.
and which comes with challenges like high patient acquisition costs and administrative burdens. What are your top priorities this quarter when it comes to scaling your practice and overcoming some of these obstacles?
Yeah, it's different offers. So that's one of the things I've been thinking of, and then going back and forth with AI and helping me think through the process. So it's creating these offers, and then how can I, do I break up the offers like there's these large offers or small offers or something in between where there's these medium priced offers. And putting that together to where it's like, all right, if I'm, with patient acquisition or client acquisition, how do I put this together where I'm going to bring someone in, introduce them to my process? And it may be with a small price offer or medium price offer before it's kind of like just getting them acquainted with the whole process because I have to decondition people in a way because so many people are so used to is like, oh, I'm just going to go where my health insurance covers. And so a part of what I do is I have to like decondition, detrain or retrain people. It's like, you don't have to. You don't have to be stuck in that system. You can do things and pull out of systems that are not working for you and invest directly into services that are going to get you somewhere faster or are going to give you more answers and more of that direct pay model. So I think part of it is probably going to be marketing through social media, I'm sure, and getting people to think differently of, all right, you know what? I should invest in my health directly because that's the greatest wealth I'll ever have is for me to be healthy and invest directly.
Okay. So you spoke about the importance of a strong digital presence. You refer to it as online and the need for effective marketing, which you're not the greatest at, but you're learning, you're doing a fabulous job. What's been the toughest part of getting your services into the hands of your ideal clients? And what strategies have you found most effective?
Yeah. So a lot of my clients, when I ask where do they find me, it's online. The majority have been.
Okay.
And which is good. So I think it's figuring out the algorithms with social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, and continuing to show up because sometimes you're producing the content and you're creating this content and you're not always getting the likes or whatever or the comments or and I'm learning is like that's not I have to realize like my goal is not to get as many followers because some of those followers could be bots, right? Like who I want to follow me is my ideal client and that may not be represented by the numbers false followers or likes or anything like that. So I think it is, yeah, I guess I hope I'm answering your question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, have you put effort and time into identifying what your ICP is?
So ideal client avatar. Yeah.
Yeah, we call it ideal client profile.
Okay.
Avatar profile, same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually what I've been working on in the past week,
Okay.
is plugging it into AI and just narrowing down that niche and specifically, and then, cause there's so many I help statements. And then you have to create the Instagram, the bio, like there's only so many characters. All
Yeah.
right. How do I like get that down to say
Yeah.
all of this in only, I don't know, 150 characters? Yeah.
Yeah, they want us to kinda narrow it down to like, okay, you had 7 words. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say, I mean, I'm talkative, I'm vocal, but it's just like, all right, how do I like condense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So given the administrative load on solo practitioners, how do you manage tasks like scheduling and lab processing and follow-ups? And where do you see the biggest opportunities for leveraging AI to reduce some of those burdens and free up time for more patient care?
Yeah. So one of the things that's been a super helpful is so I don't have a virtual assistant. I don't have a receptionist or anything like that. It's me and I lean heavily on the electronic system that I'm using. And I recently switched in November. I switched to a new system. It's called Mala. It's Malla. And what they're bringing, they're like the new kid on the block for electronic health systems.
Okay.
They're bringing into it is, and what they've got on their roadmap is actually awesome. They've asked me to be a part of their informal advisory board because they want our feedback. They want to know,
Hmm.
as a functional practitioner, like, what do you want us to create for you? What is, do you want us to take off your plate, your day-to-day tasks or running a business? And that I love that because then it's like, even though they are a SaaS company, but they're getting the feedback. They want direct feedback from practitioners, so they know that they're creating something that we want. And so that's my scheduling, invoicing, as far as, even setting up the profile, all of my notes and, all of their lab work, everything is done through that system, even direct messaging. And there is an AI component that they've added in, which is super helpful. Yes, because we've got there's so much information that we have to look through with one profile. And, and you might be looking back at lab work that was done, even 5 years ago. And then you're looking at trends, and that's where AI can really help you is, taking all of that data and picking up the trends and then bringing that to your attention. And it may even create different categories, which is great.
Yeah.
And then that way your decision making is just much more clear because you're looking at things from almost like a big picture view.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be adding some cool features based on our feedback, like storefront and things like that. So like revenue generating stuff,
Yeah. That's good.
which is yeah.
Do they focus on the SMB market? Is that their good market?
What is the SMB?
Small to medium businesses.
I would say that is probably likely the case
Yeah.
because I'm on their informal advisory board and we're all practitioners.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
That's cool. So hypothetically, this is one of my favorite questions because the answers are all over the place. If you had a magic wand to fix one thing in your business right now that's either holding you back or slowing you down to get there, what would that one thing be and why?
Yeah. All right. So hypothetically speaking, I talk out loud. So I'm just going to repeat this.
Yeah.
If I could have or put in place one thing that, like a magic wand, that's going to put in one thing that's going to take out whatever is holding me back. You know what?
Holding you back or slowing you down. Yeah. Either way you want to look at it. What would that one thing be and why?
Yeah. You know, uh, I've been wanting to create courses and I've been wanting to, yeah, I've been wanting to do so many different things. I think, gosh, this is a tough one. Because I do want to scale where I don't want everything to just be me and on my plate. So I think scaling is probably is where the little bit of a slowdown because I'm the bottleneck right now,
Yeah.
and with scaling everything can't fall on me. So I think it's having like systems in place and people in those systems in place that I trust so that I can scale. And I'd love to create courses and things that will allow me to scale. And then that way I can still work directly with the clients.
Yeah.
And this is where like creating group programs and things like that. So I think it's going to be scalability.
Okay, cool. That's good. So for ambitious wellness folks listening who are looking to grow their business, what advice might you give them about leveraging AI for lead generation or operational savings, particularly in the direct pay functional medicine space?
Yeah, you know what? If someone is online, I think a lot of folks are kind of rethinking their lifestyle, particularly if they're a practitioner. There's a lot of burnout. Burnout is real and it's big in the practitioner community, particularly in the holistic wellness practitioner community. Because I feel like there's not a whole lot of support in general. So that's one thing I'd say is like structuring your life, structuring your business, and structuring your practice to avoid the burnout and think long term. So not just, and when I say think long term, like I'm not saying short term, like I just got to get through this year. It's like, yeah, or just got to get through this quarter. Yeah, but start creating or, structuring things in a way that you're going to be able to do, 10 years from now and you're not going to get burnt out.
Mm,
I think that's biggest thing for anybody that's starting out or they're in it now and they've hit a little bit of burnout or they've been run down and even just thinking about the economic cycles too. That's one thing I've had to think about because I got hit hard in 2020, which is why I said, all right, I'm just going to go online. Like I don't need a huge overhead. I don't need the brick and mortar practice.
right.
So whatever you can do to lighten your load and then leverage AI. I think we're coming to a point where you don't really need a brick and mortar practice. You don't need a huge space to offer excellent care.
Yeah.
And you may not even need a receptionist. Maybe, maybe for like 10 hours a week, but I think you don't really need someone full time. And if you're not doing insurance, then you don't have to worry about insurance billing. You don't need that. You don't need, four full-time staff members just to deal with insurance.
Yep. No,
Yeah.
so where can people learn more about Holly Grove Health or get in touch with you personally?
Yeah, yeah. So I did mention social media. So I am on social media. So it's Holly Grove Health. I am on Instagram, on Facebook. I do have a website. It's hollygrovehealth.com.
Okay.
And you can reach me directly there. And I do have an email if anybody is interested in just reaching out to me. It's Cindy, it's CINDY at hollygrovehealth.com. And I start off with the initial assessment. And so if they are interested in working with me, that's where I usually start. We can have a conversation before. And if you'd like, we can do a clarity, alignment, and purpose call. We could start there and then we can move right into the initial assessment.
Great. Great.
Yeah.
Cindy, thank you again. I think your insights were really fantastic.
Thank you, Joe. This was fun. I actually really enjoyed
Yeah.
recording this and having this conversation.